quite obvious that there are changes that are coming, right? And the changes will take place on both the people side, the process side, the technology side. I know we're all, certainly having more of these types of conversations than we've ever had previously. We're now all attending virtual conferences, and I've never had attended a virtual conference prior to, the prior 8 weeks. So would love to get the perspective from both of you on, what you foresee as some of the major changes coming to either the people, the process, or the technology side, and maybe some of the opportunities now that are presenting themselves for all of us to take advantage of.
So one of the things as a company that I'm proud of what we did and was, even before the government started enforcing a lot of these, like, work from home or shelter, we were proactive to try and take those steps a couple of weeks ahead of time. And even recently, even though, in California, where I'm based right now, they're looking to sort of remove some of these restrictions at the end of May. We've already taken the step that we just announced to our employees this week that at MVU, employee safety comes first, and we're going to try to keep the office. There's no mandatory return for anybody who needs to come back into the office till at least September 1st right now, and or seeing how things go, but the idea is to provide that reassurance, to the employees, because that sort of feeds into, because a lot of our employees, obviously, if they don't feel good and safe, then that energy passes back down into the customers that they ended up serving as well. Whenever there's a crisis, it makes a company and an individual kind of change the way they look at stuff, right? And so change is definitely going to happen. And so, for us, I've actually kind of see this as a really good opportunity. Personally, we've had a lot of projects, for example, on the product roadmap that was like sitting further out. And, this has actually become an opportunity where we've been able to kind of go back and have, a good conversation with the leadership team in terms of, if we really want to maximize growth and reduce risk in the business moving forward, here are a couple of projects that should get prioritized a lot higher, and that has actually helped us get, for example, global expansion was something that I really wanted to do, and it was that was going to happen, let's say Q3, Q4. So I mean, we pushed that up. So we launched into France and Germany on mobile. In the last 2 weeks. That wasn't going to happen that quickly, but now that we're able to reshift focus. The other thing that I wanted to bring up too, and maybe people are probably, I haven't seen many people talking about, is the fact that, there's a lot of advertisers that are sitting on the sidelines, but as you know, the thing with marketers is it's generally the mentality, use it or lose it, right? So a lot of those budgets are going to come back eventually, and I feel they're all going to come back in Q4. And what's going to happen, it's going to be a mad rush where people aren't going to care about CPMs and CPIs when it does come back. So, so think of it this way, that Q4 is going to be very expensive, or it's going to be more inflated in terms of costs, especially in the US, because the other variable in the US is a presidential election, and we know what happens in the presidential election. There's a lot of money that gets pushed into a lot of the channels exactly where MVU spends a lot of money, which is social networks like the Facebooks and Googles or whatever. So for me, this has been a great time to make a really strong case that let's really push on the gas with our global expansion, because it kind of helps to balance out the fact that if we need to reduce some of our spend in the US, we'll be able to go and spend that money more efficiently in Europe, and be able to acquire customers and reduce the risk to the business. Plus, it expands the different areas on where we continue to drive growth. So that is definitely one change. It's just reshifting priorities on the product roadmap. The other change is just trying to figure out, obviously we had hoped this thing was maybe going to be like a 4-week or whatever, but it's not going to be a 4 week. Realistically, this is going to be like a marathon, not a sprint. So let's figure out how we can get everybody more productive into the new reality of working well together. So trying to figure out, trying to do some kind of retrospectives on what's worked in the last 4 to 6 weeks and what hasn't. How can we regroup and do better as a company and as a team? And then the third thing that I feel, for me, I've been fortunate because I've worked in startups through good and bad times, but the best time to build a startup is in bad times because all the costs are down. And so, the other thing that I'm really looking into is what you brought up earlier, is what are some of those like aspirational channels that we were sort of, not doing based on costs, but now, that's something where we want to continue to expand our testing capabilities to try a lot of these channels that we didn't really try in the past, because we know we can try it a lot cheaper right now. But at the same time, I feel we want to also continue to make the investments on the technology side where we can continue to be working as well as possible in an agile environment, so we can continue to shift and adapt to whatever comes down the road for us.
From my side, very quick, because we are out of time. Yes, probably. From my side, very quick in terms of like perspective. So what we observed in general situation, that a lot of startups in Europe, and not only in Europe, starting to fire people. So there will be many open, new talents that you can acquire for cheaper price. Second is that there are more opportunity for remote mode of working in future versus what was before this crisis, because many companies realize that actually some of the people can work even better and more efficient from staying from home versus to going to the office and talking to other people or whatever, So that also might be the case. Another case is that, as I mentioned as at the beginning, that a lot of other new categories showing up. For instance, if you have a factory of mask processing the mask, you are a multi-billionaire right now, So such kind of categories that are using in like a crisis or whatever. In terms of our users, we don't know what will happen to our core users or new users take advantage of our new services when this is over. They're gonna stick with us. They're gonna grocery users gonna stick or not with us. It will be something to carefully monitor and experiment with. But we're gonna, as Glow, will continue to offer not only grocery with the partnerships with the big chain, but also we're gonna push our own brand Glow Market with our dark stores of convenience stores with more convenient, faster delivery to these people. Before the crisis, behavior might take place. However, we don't know how long this crisis will last, what will be the impact, and no one can forecast anything. Yeah, so, but in our case, we know we guess that a lot we can, after this crisis, if this crisis ever ended, will ever be ended, we will get a lot of users that using not only food category but other categories like multi-categories such as like grocery, also the courier service, etc. Actually, through our app, we can deliver whatever you want. So this category right now is increasing, and their shares among our app is increasing, and we are super happy that in past, before this crisis, we got the idea to put these categories in, because otherwise our competitors, especially like the food delivery service, they get in some core market, that huge partners like McDonald's or Burger King was shutting down or is shutting down. They suffering right now, because of there was one of the main traffic was using these partners, and they don't have it right now.
When it comes to the people side of things, and I believe Lomit, you may have mentioned it, we certainly have attempted to double down on the product and technology, especially internally. In fact, as we looked at our roadmap, our hiring roadmap specifically, we shifted heads from sales and marketing over to product and engineering. You know, and you may call it somewhat short-sighted. You know, we're a pretty healthy business, profitable, and have some really aggressive growth targets. But at least in the interim, before we sort of had more information, we decided that product and engineering is the one thing that we know we can't exist without. So certainly our focus was on product and engineering. We rethought that product roadmap as well. And I think, you know, Lomit mentioned that. There's no question that forecasting is a challenge. It's a challenge for everyone out there. And I am all ears when it comes to attempting to solve the forecasting problem, especially in today's climate. The perspective of a global expansion, we're also looking, we are a Boston-based company. Our engineering team, however, is based in the Ukraine, but we are starting to look really aggressively at EMEA as our next growth market. So a lot of what we've all discussed, I'm happy to say that we're sort of focusing on many of those things. We also believe that Q4 could be quite crazy. There's no question about it. But I think opportunities still exist for all of us.
So primarily three things, right? Because everybody is remote, right? And everybody has good ideas. So I built not just a CRM strategy for like what we would do for the next 4 months, but also like what each individual person is planning to do for the next 4 months. Like the use cases that we want to productize, the experiments that we want to run, the channels we want to use, the metrics, the channel metrics we want to grow, and like from that perspective. And then the second part is, since we are seeing a good increase in our gifting and video, so then obviously focusing, okay, which part of the business is growing, how much do we want to grow there, and how is CRM contributing, and what are the use cases that CRM would be initiating during the next 4 months. So thinking like whenever I think of user engagement, monetization, and team experiments activities that we do. So that every team member is happy, motivated, and challenged. Users are engaged so that more and more users are coming back, and our retention improves. And monetization, because in such time, not entire month people have money towards the end of the month, or spending is patterns are different. So monetizing at the right time.
I think, you know, we've always been very lean when it comes to marketing spends, but now we have to be 2x leaner. So continue delivering with much lesser, trying to be very conscious of how and where we spend. So I think efficiencies, eliminating waste, and going back and renegotiating with your different partners, whether they are your vendors, your agencies, or all the platforms you use. I think it's time for having those conversations to see where you can eliminate waste and bring in more efficiencies on the spends. Content. So we discussed a lot about it today. Content would be absolutely critical in terms of make it organic, make it authentic, make it empathetic, give people what they really need now, which is look at the bright side of things, and continue doing that. A lot of action around that. Partnerships. So I think all of us are in this situation together, and all of us can emerge out of it together. So showing that empathy towards your small businesses, to local talents, to the partners who've been supportive all around. So recently, for example, in UAE right now, Ramadan is is the flavor of the month. And when we talk about CSR, we don't have to do everything ourselves again. So we've involved all our customers into this act of giving. We partnered with Zomato to donate Meals of Hopes. And you see how customers are willing to engage with your brand for a cause like this, especially in current times when they know that there are so many more who face this hardship. So leveraging the partnership ecosystem here and working with them to bring content, to bring value, and to bring that emotional connection with customers, that's what will drive a lot of the engagement in the coming months. So trust, empathy, and efficiency.
Brands that have credibility, that have taken the time to listen to their consumers, that have taken the time to listen to their partners, and have the agility to adapt to this new normal will thrive. But for the others, it will be a challenging time. And I think, therefore, for those brands, it is very important to look at innovation as a key driver of change, especially in our industry where typically restaurants have been more offline focused because of the dine-in experience. They've suddenly had to embrace the online part quite significantly. And so really maintaining that momentum and balance and making sure customers see value, restaurant partners see value will be key for all brands in our space to thrive and survive.